March 11th, 2025. It's a Tuesday morning in Tokyo, a few minutes before 10. On phone screens around the country, a live stream is playing. There's nothing special about it. A young woman is walking through the city, chatting with her viewers while the morning crowds move around her. Students on bikes, salarymen on their way to the office, the rattle of the Yamanote line somewhere overhead. Her name is Airi. She's 22, and this is her job: walking, talking, and keeping her audience company on an ordinary morning. Then, mid-sentence, her viewers hear her scream. Her phone drops to the ground, and the viewers are left with nothing but audio. They're shouting somewhere off-screen. In the chat, messages pile up faster than anyone can read them. Where did she go? What happened? Someone help her. But nobody watching could help. Airi Sato would pass away on that day. What happened to her that morning would go on to become news worldwide. Another case that highlighted the dangers of parasocial relationships. However, as many would go on to find out, this story was far from that simple and straightforward. To understand this case, you need to understand the industry Airi worked in. Because in Japan, live streaming is in some ways even bigger than in many Western countries. It's a massive industry, and it's been around for 20 years. It more or less started in 2006 with a site called Nico Nico, where viewer comments scrolled across the video itself. That changed what watching felt like. You weren't alone in front of a video anymore. You were in a room with other people, and the person on screen would read your comment out loud and answer you by name. An entire ecosystem grew out of that. Twitcasting, Showroom, 17 Live, and the platform Airi used, Who Watch. They all work the same basic way. The streamer talks to you, remembers you, and thanks you. You send them money, small digital tips the Japanese call nakisen, thrown coins like change tossed to a street performer. By the 2020s, there was a word for building your free time around a favorite streamer or idol: oshikatsu. For most people, it's a normal hobby, no different from following a football team. Department stores hold oshikatsu fairs, and banks write reports about what it does for the economy. Japan also has a much older business built on the same exchange. The Hostess Club, where regulars pay to drink with a woman who remembers their name, laughs at their jokes, and asks about their week. Everyone involved technically knows it's a paid arrangement. Streaming didn't replace the world of host clubs, but rather it merged with it. Many young female streamers also work shifts at hostess clubs or concept cafes, where fans can come and meet them in person. The same girl who reads your comment at night might be pouring your drinks on the weekend. And the difference between a fan, a customer, and a friend gets blurry. Japan had already seen how badly that could end. The world of idols has had its fair share of cases that ended in tragedy, precisely because parasocial fans took things too far. In 2016, a singer named Mayu Tomita returned a gift a fan had mailed her. He sent her hundreds of angry messages. She went to the police and told them she was scared for her life, and yet they sent her home. Soon after, he was waiting for her outside one of her own shows. and he stabbed her dozens of times. She survived, though heavily scarred, and her case forced Japan to rewrite its anti-stalking laws to cover online threats. In 2019, an idol named Ena Matsuoka was attacked outside her own apartment by a fan who had found her address using nothing but her selfies. He zoomed in on her eyes and identified the train station reflected in them, then matched it on Google Street View and found her home. One case showed how fast a fan could turn violent, and the other showed how much your own photos and videos could reveal where you are. Airi Sato was exposed to both dangers at once. Streaming on Who Watch under the name Mogami I, with a following in the low thousands, and working at a hostess club on the side. Her specialty was the IRL stream. She would post a schedule, go out into the city, and live stream her walking. For March 11th, she had announced a very big stream, walking the entire Yamanote Loop line, station by station. She had a large crowd of regular fans. She had posted her schedule, and she was live streaming exactly where she was. On most days, for most streamers, IRL streaming was relatively safe. However, one person in her large audience of fans was following her stream very intently that day, trying to find her location. His name was Kenichi Takano. He lived in Oyama, a commuter city in Tochigi Prefecture, about 100 kilometers north of Tokyo. He found Airi's streams in December of 2021, in the middle of the pandemic, when a huge number of people were doing their socializing through a screen. He tipped. She noticed him. The tips turned into conversations, and before long they were messaging each other directly, off the platform. For half a year he didn't dare meet her in person. By his own account, he was afraid she wouldn't like him once she did. In the summer of 2022, he finally went. He was working at a hostess club in Yamagata Prefecture at the time, hours away from his home, and yet he made the trip 4 times, spending about 770,000 yen at the club, plus travel, hotels, and gifts. He later said he paid all of that willingly. That part was the normal arrangement, commonplace for hostess clubs. Then, that September, the arrangement changed. She sent him a message. "So sorry, I left my bag at my day job. Could you lend me a little until tomorrow?" He would go on to transfer her 40,000 yen. The requests never stopped after that, and the reasons for borrowing his money kept coming. Her phone was about to be cut off. She'd been pressured into buying champagne at the club and had to cover it. Sometimes she hinted at worse, that she might be in danger or might have to work somewhere she didn't want to. Every time she promised she'd pay him back, and every time he believed her. "I want to be there for you," he told her. "Just say the word if you're short again." His savings, about 4.5 million yen, ran out. And yet the requests kept coming, and to keep up with them he started borrowing from loan companies, maxing out his credit with 2 consumer lenders so he could keep wiring her money. In the end, he lent her more than 2.5 million yen. Of all that money, she repaid 30,000 yen. Once. She would come up with countless excuses for why she couldn't pay him back. And then, eventually, she stopped answering him. At trial, his own message log showed what the next stretch of his life looked like. Takano, now being chased by the loan companies himself, unable to afford food, pleaded with her over Line Messenger. "Help me, help me, help me." At one point, he begged her to at least mark his messages as read. She didn't. When he vented about the debt on social media, the response didn't come from her. It came from her boyfriend, the president of her talent agency, who told him to stop posting and demanded a 3 million yen penalty if he did it again. Takano went to the police, who told him a debt was a civil matter and turned him away. So he sued her, and in 2023, a court ordered her to repay the money. He moved to seize her bank account, but the balance was 160 yen, about $1. On paper, he had won, but in reality, the judgment was worthless. And while his own life fell apart, Airi's looked like it was going great, at least the version she posted. She kept streaming for tips and shared glimpses of a comfortable life in a high-rise apartment with her agency president boyfriend. Takano would send her messages saying that if she could afford all that, she could pay him back. He would receive no reply. In November 2023, she announced their engagement. Prosecutors say that's when he stopped wanting his money back and started planning his revenge. In February 2025, Takano ordered a knife from an online shop. Soon after, he saw Airi's announcement, a live stream walking the Yamanote line scheduled for the morning of March 11th. That morning, he boarded a train from Oyama. He didn't have her address, and he didn't need it. As Airi streamed her route, he watched the stream on his own phone and matched the shops and street corners behind her to the streets around him. Her own camera led him to her. Shortly before 10, on a busy street near Takadanobaba station, he found her. We won't linger on what happened next out of respect for her. It lasted about a minute. People nearby heard Airi calling for help before she fell, and witnesses saw that even then, the man standing over her was not fleeing the scene. Rather, he was pointing a phone at her. Her stream had already gone dark, leaving her viewers staring at a blank screen, listening to sirens. Police arrested Takano at the scene. He never fled. He admitted the attack almost immediately, though he told officers he hadn't meant to kill her. In later statements, he put it more plainly. He couldn't stand that she would go on streaming and earning money and living a lavish life with her rich fiancé while he was living in poverty, chased by debtors, as she forgot all about him. He wanted the world to know what she had done to him. Airi was taken to a hospital, where doctors tried to save her. She died of her wounds that day. She was 22. The killing shocked Japan. Violent crime is rare on Tokyo streets, and this had happened in daylight, in a neighborhood full of university students, with an audience listening through the victim's own microphone. It took over a year for the case to reach trial. In July 2026, Takano stood before the Tokyo District Court in a lay-judge trial, where ordinary citizens sat alongside professional judges. He admitted the charges and told the court in a shaking voice that he was deeply sorry. Even so, the hearings were hard to sit through. Prosecutors laid out the full scale of the violence. 55 stab wounds inflicted while Airi begged him to stop, and described how he behaved afterward, filming her and mocking her as she lay dying. In their words, he had trampled on her dignity. They asked for 20 years. The defense didn't deny any of it. They walked the court through the debt, the ignored messages, the worthless judgment, and a man who had sunk low enough to consider ending his own life. Desperation, they argued, rather than cold blood. On July 15th, 2026, the court handed down its sentence. 16 years in prison. There's no way to tell this story with a spotless victim and a simple monster, and it would be dishonest to try. Airi Sato took millions of yen from a man she could see was ruining himself, promised over and over to repay it, and then simply stopped answering him. She ignored his messages, and she ignored the court order telling her to pay the money back. The damage she did to him was very real. And she was also 22, barely out of her teens, raised in hard circumstances, and working in an industry that quietly rewarded this exact kind of thing. Young people make ugly mistakes with money and with other people's feelings. The answer to those mistakes is consequences, absolutely. But never murder. Nothing she did made her deserving of the fate that befell her. As for Takano, the courts had already given him everything they could. A judgment and a bank account with 160 yen in it. What ate at him afterwards wasn't only the money, it was having to watch. Her streams kept going, her posts kept coming. The high-rise apartment, the nice things, the engagement to the same man who had threatened to fine him for talking about the debt. Every update from her was another reminder that his ruin had cost her nothing. He could have cut his losses and rebuilt what remained of his life. Instead, he sat with it, month after month, until one day he ordered a knife online. Whatever sympathy his situation evoked ended when he did what he did. But the part of this story worth carrying forward isn't really about either of them. It's about the world Airi worked in. By day, she was a streamer, but by night, she was a hostess, and the hostess world runs on rules of its own. There, getting customers to spend through manufactured affection isn't a corruption of the job, it very much is the job. The clubs rank their girls by sales, and nobody asks the top earner what she said to get there. A made-up crisis is just another way to close. A few years ago, a woman known as Riri-chan showed how far that logic could go. She swindled lonely middle-aged men out of enormous sums, about 155 million yen from 3 men in the charges against her, closer to 300 million by her own count. And then she did something arguably worse. She wrote her method down and sold it. The manual became a bestseller in her corner of the internet, roughly 1,000 copies at 30,000 yen each, and nobody can say how many girls have used it to pull money out of men. Her advice was simple. Pick men who are single, isolated, and inexperienced. Act sweet, act broke. Never ask for money directly. Invent trouble instead. Scary people are demanding money from you, or you might have to go work somewhere frightening if nobody helps. Then wait, and he'll offer it himself. Riri-chan is in prison now, serving 8.5 years. But read the messages Airi sent Takano and tell me the playbook isn't very much alive. The champagne she was supposedly forced to buy, the hints of danger, of maybe having to work somewhere she didn't want to, word for word it could have come from that very manual. There's no evidence Airi ever read it, but she probably didn't need to. Those tactics had since become well known. The hostess world at least protects its girls while they do this. A hostess works behind a door with security staff beside it. Her real name and address stay private, And if a customer becomes a problem, the club deals with them. An IRL streamer has none of that. She broadcasts her exact location in real time to anyone who cares to watch, including those with evil intent. None of this makes live streaming the villain. Most of it is still what it looks like. Someone talking to a small room of people who enjoy their company, and both sides going to bed a little less lonely. But the mentality of the night trade is bleeding into that space. Viewers sized up as wallets, sob stories aimed at lonely men looking for female attention, without any of the protections the clubs provide. The two worlds overlap a little more every year. If there's anything to take from this case, it's the hope that people on both sides of the screen learn from it. That streamers don't take advantage of the bond they share with their fans, and that fans don't push that bond further than it can go. Because when either side crosses that line, things can turn dark very quickly. But maybe that's wishful thinking. This is the age we live in now. The streams go on, the hostess clubs keep their doors open, and there will always be people who take things too far. 16 years from now, the man who killed Airi Sato will walk out of prison.